Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the magnificent Monday edition of the Yard. It is a beautiful day in Starkville, Mississippi. It's a little chilly out. That's cool. It's going to warm up a little bit later. Highs, I guess, in low 80s. We woke up, had to turn the heater on this morning. It's nice and toasty in the house right now. But it's a beautiful day. And one of the main reasons it's beautiful is because the Bulldogs won again. Man, it feels so good to win. Difficult to really describe that. You get so emotionally invested in all this, you hope for the best, you prepare for the worst, and you look up at the midway point in the 2022 schedule, and your Bulldogs are 5-1, and dare I say it, should be 6-0. We're going to break down the game, as we always do here on this show. I am what I am. I do what I do. Before we get into all that, let me let you know, if you haven't heard already, Mississippi State's game at Alabama will be a 6 p.m. kick there at Bryant-Denny Stadium. 6 p.m. kick. So a night game at Kentucky and then a night game at Alabama. Now, I've mentioned on this show before that I'm a little worried that we play too many day games in Starkville, and maybe we do. And in the past, we would say, well, we can't expect to play anything better than 11 because we're not playing well. We don't have a good record. You'll kind of get what we get. Well, State's 5-1 now. A lot of interest in this team. A lot of maybe college media pundits out there, college football pundits that are now on the Mike Leach bandwagon. It's taken us a couple years. But if you watch the SEC network, you see people like, Dorian and others saying, you know what, this Mississippi State team is good. It's one of the things I've been saying all along. This team is good. We're going to prove it again this Saturday. Your Bulldogs should be 6-1 going to Tuscaloosa for that night game. This is a good football team, folks. And here's the thing. I don't know, and I'm going to say this, and it might actually hurt some feelings, and I'm okay with that. I don't know that we have a great wide receiver. What that's thinking for, I don't know if we do. I don't know if we have a great wide receiver. We've got a bunch of good ones, and we got a couple that are really good at times, but I don't know that we have a great one. Now, of course, Caleb Ducking, an incredible season so far for him, 7 touchdown catches. Got everybody around the SEC doing the duck. But he's not a 100-yard game per game type guy. I don't know if we have what I would consider a game-breaking receiver. What we are winning with right now is scheme. What will this scheme look like when we do get those elite receivers? Those are the things I ask myself. Many of the receivers on this team were recruited to play in another offense. But what will this roster and depth chart look like, let's say, in 2 years when Steve Spurrier and Drew Hollingshead have all of their guys? You know, Ra Thomas, that's a Steve Spurrier guy. A guy who was committed to South Carolina. We flipped him after the coaching change. Simeon Price, a young guy too, is a running back, but he was another guy that we flipped kind of in that same little stretch. But the reality of it is this. I don't know if we have elite offensive skill. I think we have good offensive skill. I don't know that we have elite offensive skill. Many of you have discussed at times about, Will Rogers has a ceiling. He has some limitations, and that's true. He does. But he just set the SEC record for completions in a career in almost half the games it took for Aaron Murray to set the previous record. And provided Will stays healthy, I think he's back for another year at least. So you're looking at a guy that's probably got, 19, 20 more starts to go? Is that right? You got 6 more in a regular season plus a bowl game. 12 next year plus a bowl game. He could set some records that could never be touched. Because how many 4-year starters are there going to be? And yes, he took over halfway through 2020. But how many of those guys are you going to have? And if he comes back for 2024, Will Rogers' name may live forever in the SEC record books. Just think about the math on that. And of course, Will named the co-offensive player of the week by the Southeastern Conference today. Well, Roger's having a huge year for Mississippi State. And what's crazy about it, you guys don't get a chance to talk to Will much. I mean, some of you know him. But, you see the videos in the press conference. But, there are times I get a chance to talk to him after a ball game or kind of off the cuff. And Will is always talking about, it's never about, hey, we had 450 yards passing and 5 touchdowns. Will's thinking, you know what, man, we should have scored again. I missed this throw. We had the wrong read here. Didn't pick up this stunt. He's always focused on getting better. Like you don't see him out here saying, hey, I've arrived. And it's genuine, too. That's the thing. It's like when you talk to him, you can kind of see the look in his face. He goes, yeah, we had a good game, but could have been a great game. And you look up and we're just absolutely destroying people. And then your quarterback is thinking, yeah, it's good, thanks. But I missed this throw, or I should have done this. We can play better as a team. And, that's what I want from the leadership of this team. You got to stay hungry. You can't just say, hey, listen, look at us. We're 5-1, ranked number 16 in the country. Things are going great. We got an FCS game, so we know we're for sure going to go to a bowl game this year. That may be the old Mississippi State mentality. Like last year, let's be honest about 2021. We knew that we were going to be chasing the season. We knew it. We were like, hey, we're going to have to work hard to get bowl eligible. We dropped that game against Memphis, and we're thinking, you know what, we got no margin for error. We got to figure it out. I was still somewhat optimistic we'd make it to 6. We ultimately didn't make it to 7 because we went on the road at A&M. But the reality of it is that this team has kind of grown up before our eyes. How good can they be? That kind of remains to be seen. But I think we feel good about the direction of things. And here's the thing, too. I want to say this because I love each of you. There are some days you don't love me, and there are some people that don't listen to the show. Let's say I get a little bit too preachy, and that's okay, too. I am what I am. I do what I do. But there are some fans, beginning of the year, that said, hey, I just don't expect a good year. I don't see the need in calling them out because at the end of the day, we all want the same things. Let's all just be happy with what we have and what we're doing rather than trying to get another one. Yeah, in your face. Listen, there are a lot of people, too, and I've got a friend in the media, and I won't say his name because I don't want to embarrass him. Some of you know him. He worries more about Mississippi State sports than anybody I know. And I've got another friend out there that forecasts failure all the time, but he's actually kind of turned it around a little bit this year. But I got one friend in the media. It is, even in the middle of a ball game, like we'll be up 4 touchdowns and we give up a big play. I don't understand. It's all the time. But he has this coping mechanism, like he will always kind of project negativity and project failure because I believe there is some type of euphoric release when he's wrong. And, of course, if he's right, and come back and say, see, I told you so. So it's like a win-win for him. Either Mississippi State wins or he wins, right? But I love him anyway, right? And so I think when we're having a season like this, let's just kind of wrap our arms around each other and let's just all just enjoy the ride rather than try to figure out who was right and who was wrong. Let's just enjoy the ride, man. This is what we all wanted, right? We wanted this team to do well. We're doing well. And then we're at the halfway point. We've got a lot of games left. Back into the schedule's got a couple of Grizzly Bears we got to kind of go contend with too. But we wanted this to be a positive step forward. And I think, again, when you begin to break this thing down and begin to think about, okay, we should be able to get to 8 wins, possibly 9. And if we get an upset somewhere, who knows what could happen? Could there be a 10-win regular season? I was very hesitant to kind of jump on that bandwagon. I had some people say, oh, we can do this. I'm thinking, you know what? What you're really saying is that we got to beat everybody other than Alabama and Georgia, and I just don't know if we can do that. One of the things I want to point out to you, too, before we get into the breakdown of the show, I ran across this yesterday because I was curious. And I figure if I'm curious about stuff, chances you are, too, because, we've kind of seen it all and done it all. And so scoring margin, or, average scoring for Mississippi State, incredible stuff here. Okay, so back in 2020, you know how anemic the offense was, and everybody said the air raid wasn't going to work. Now, granted, we're running the air raid with a bunch of young freshmen, Jaden Wiley, Woody Marks and Dylan Johnson and Will Rogers were all freshmen. They were the core of our offensive production that year. And everybody said, you know what? Year one, let's go ahead and, have the funeral. Air raid's not going to work in the SEC. We averaged 21.4 points per game in 2020. Well, next year, Will Rogers, of course, was the full-time starter. Had some guys around him, getting better. Our scoring margin at that point, our scoring average, 26.9 points. So we're up 5.5 points. And you know what? As a result, we won some more games. Guys, we're averaging 38 points a game this year. So we've nearly doubled what we were doing in year one. So my question to you now is the air raid going to work in the SEC or not? Also of note, too, we touched on first quarter scoring last week. State again holds an opponent out of the end zone in the first quarter. Now it's a 66-7 first quarter scoring margin in favor of Mississippi State. The only touchdown we've allowed in the first quarter, the very first drive against Arizona, Tyrus Sweep misses a tackle, and they gash us for that long run. That's the only points in the first quarter Mississippi State has allowed this year. Remember last year how we were always chasing the game? We get down to Kentucky, we get down to Arkansas, we get down, we have to fight back, and it felt like it was all we could do, and then sometimes we'd kind of run out of gas late. You're getting off to good starts now, which tells me Mississippi State is well coached. Because it'd be one thing if it was just on one side of the football, like just offensively, hey, we're going out scoring our opening drives, and in 6 games now, Mississippi State has scored on 5 of their 6 opening drives, the one exception, Texas A&M. Arguably the best defense we played so far. We still won that game handily. But defensively, we've given it 1 touchdown in the first quarter through 6 games. Your Bulldogs are well prepared, and I will die on that hill. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company. Speaking of people being well prepared, they're always ready for you to show up. Always. Great food at a great price with a great atmosphere. Part of a great company that has fed people in the Golden Triangle for many, many years. They know what it takes to feed folks, and that's what I like, people with experience. When I want to go have a dining experience, I want to go somewhere that people know what they're doing. That's what you get at Bulldog Burger Company. 3 great locations to serve you: University Drive here in Star Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, and the newest one, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowood area. Go by and tell them I said hello. Order the spring rolls as your appetizer. It'll make you and everybody around you better looking. It's now in writing on the menu. It's not a joke. And maybe get that chocolate shake to go. Take it with you. You need a palate cleanser anyway. Maybe get it to go. Maybe open up that table for that next family coming in to enjoy a great restaurant quality hamburger. Be sure and go check them out today. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. All right. Now, I said this in a post-game video. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't. You can go find it over at genespage.com. Find it on YouTube, whatever you want. But here's the reality. Mississippi State has been better than Arkansas for a long time. You said, but Steve, we lost the last 2. You're exactly correct. And it wasn't because of anything Arkansas did. It was about what we did or didn't do. You go back and look at last year's numbers, 2021. Will was over 400 yards passing, had 4 touchdowns. And we lost. Everybody's like, oh, well, Barry Odom is the kryptonite for Mike Leach. I mentioned this on genespage.com earlier today. Barry Odom didn't create anything. He just mimicked what Jimmy Lake did at Washington. Jimmy Lake was one of the first ones to really give Leach trouble consistently. But it's like now, Arkansas and Barry Odom. Barry Odom did a good job last year against Mississippi State. State just couldn't make a field goal. Couldn't get a defensive stop late. Had nothing to do with Arkansas's defensive effort. Will Rogers threw for more yards against Arkansas last year in a loss than he did this year in a win. So can we please stop repeating this false narrative? Because it's over. It's over. All right, let's look at the ball game. It's always fun to do this, especially when we win, right? And it's the thing you start looking at this thing too. State is not just winning. State is winning big. We had that rough second half down in Baton Rouge. But outside of that, State has controlled every game from the outset and never really had any anxiety in the second half. Of course, State wins 49-23 over Memphis, 39-17 at Arizona, 45-14 against Bowling Green, 42-24 against A&M, now 40-17 against Arkansas. And honestly, I think State played better against A&M than we did against Arkansas, even though we had the bigger scoring margin. All right, let's get inside the numbers here. Break this game down. Try to provide some insight here to you guys too. We knew they were going to drop 8 because that's what they do, but that's what Jimmy Lake does, or did. So that's what Barry Odom did. And Arkansas has not been great against the run anyway. We come out there and DJ gashes them for 9 right up the middle. And this is one of those drives too. And I guess maybe back up a little bit here. They kicked the ball out of bounds on the opening kick. We talk about being ready to play. Arkansas was not ready to play. And it was evident very early on. They kick the ball out of bounds, we get it 35, and then DJ runs for 9. And then we get them off sides. Now, one of the things that I want to point out about this, too, is I have seen a lot of Arkansas social media commentary. And listen, I like Arkansas people. I do. I know some of their people on Twitter are real jerks, and they're not truly indicative of the rest of the fan base. They're not great ambassadors or representatives of Arkansas Razorback athletics. I get it. We have some of those fans, too, right? They take it too far on social media. Every fan base does. Arkansas baseball just has more than most. But they were talking about all the Quincy Sharps moving the football. Guys, let me tell you this. Until he gets set, until we get set, everybody has to come set before the snap. He can move the football. You go back and watch, he wasn't moving the football after he came set. And that became guys, it's a 40-17 game. Okay, please. Well, that's 5 yards, gives us a first down. Then we go right back to DJ, and you'll notice he's been getting the rock on the first drive, Woody on the second. And I like it. It keeps them both fresh, but I do think it's interesting that DJ goes first. All right, 2nd and 4, DJ again runs for 7. It's a first down. We're just going through them like a knife through butter here. Our first completion of the day goes to Caleb Ducking. 8 yards there. Pretty simple route concept. It's basically ran the slant. 8 yards. We go back to DJ for 6, which makes it that was on 2nd and 2, gives us another first down, moves the chains. 1st and 10. We go to Rufus right here. And I don't know. I don't know that he was really open. Probably not the best selection here. They credit Hudson Clark with a breakup, but he really kind of came over the top. I think the ball placement was off a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about that too. A lot of people like talking about these almost interceptions. As I said on Bo Ballen's show today, the state of Mississippi never ratified the Hugh Kellenberger doctrine about almost interceptions. Either they picked it or they didn't. There are some times you throw balls into traffic and we'll expect your guy to make a play. More times than not, for us, they do. But sometimes Will's ball placement's been off a little bit. He'll tell you the same. But one of the things that makes Will great is sometimes Will can kind of ram it in there in a tight passing window. This just wasn't one of those cases. All right, brings up a 2nd and 10. Really the first time we don't gain yardage here. And we hit Austin Williams, who made a spectacular diving catch inside the Arkansas 5. Remember last week, Austin Williams and Jaden Wiley were just kind of, absent, it seemed. Both of them made big plays for the Bulldogs this week. And I don't think that says anything about inconsistency. I think that speaks to the depth of the wide receiver room. That it can be a different guy every weekend. You can't go out there and say, okay, we've got to shut Austin Williams down and make somebody else beat us because we have so many guys that can beat you. Because, again, we have good offensive skill. Not elite, but good offensive skill. 1st and goal. We go to Ra here, and they flag him for being offsides. There's no play there. I thought Ra was going to pull it in, too. And again, this is talking about those tight windows. Will makes a really good throw here. We just don't complete the play. All right, so it's 1st and goal now from the 2. We give it to DJ up the middle for 1. Back to him on 2nd and 1. And it's a touchdown. And that's the way this drive should have ended. Really, Dylan Johnson kind of carrying the load on this, so he should have gotten the payday at the end. He does. Extra point is good, which proved to be quite the accomplishment again. And, I know all of you. I'm tired of talking about that. I know you guys are too. We should never have to sweat out an extra point. That is really getting frustrated. We make this one. Arkansas's first drive, and it is Cade Fortin getting the start here. And I really thought he looked extremely uncomfortable. Now, he hadn't played a whole lot, so you knew that he would not be, maybe the picture of pocket poise in this ball game. And you saw that pretty early on. Ty Weed in his face. He throws short to Trey Knox. Again, they've made Trey a tight end now. But, yeah, basically a throwaway here. 2nd and 10, they give it to Rocket Sanders, who had a good game, not a great game. State needed to kind of, maintain some things here with him. And to be fair, he didn't play much in the fourth quarter. He would have gone over the 100-yard mark. But 7 yards here on the first carry. Brings up a 3rd and 3. And we have bad linebacker play here. And I don't know who's responsible for this, but they basically just float Sanders out there in the flat, and we don't get out there and cover it. So they throw it out there to him, and he gets a first down. All right, 1st and 10. It's incomplete to Hazelwood, who had a pretty good ball game. And we knew that he was kind of the alpha among that wide receiver group. They had a couple guys make some plays, but Hazelwood's an impressive player. All right, 2nd and 10, they give it to Rocket again up the right side for 1 yard. Makes it a 3rd and 9. And then this is when Zach Arnett said, you know what, this is it. We bring 4 here. We don't bring the house. We bring 4. Ty Wheat comes in and gets frontside pressure. Him and Cam Young meet at the quarterback. Ty Wheat credited with the sack here, which makes it 4th and 18. And I think at this point, too, I think Arkansas people thought, you know what, we're in trouble here. We're in trouble because the air raid ran it right down our throats, and they come in here and just kind of throw us around on defense. And Will Rogers said, you know what, Arkansas fans, you're right, as he marches us right back down the field here on our second drive of the game. State takes over at their own 45 with 8:50 to go in the first quarter. This time it's the Woody Marks drive. And Woody having basically the same level of success that DJ did. He goes for 5 on first down, then 7 on second down, which brings up a first down. We go right back to him on the right side, get 7 more. Brings up 2nd and 3. Then we check it out there to Woody, and he gets 2 more. Brings up a very manageable 3rd and 1. We go for it, obviously, give it to him, and we get the first down. They tack on the face mask penalty. Now all of a sudden we're inside the red zone here. And State has been absolute money in the red zone this year. That was the case again this week. 1st and 10 from the Arkansas 18. Incomplete here. Drew Sanders, and everybody says, oh, well, they brought 3 the all day. No, they didn't. Here's Drew Sanders coming free here, kind of getting in Will's face. We're a little bit short there to Scooby. Brings up 2nd and 10. We nearly had this one picked, and everybody talked about this, and this had nothing to do with Will Rogers. We try to run the tunnel screen here to Justin Robinson. He lets it get inside. He doesn't catch a ball with his hands, bounces off the shoulder pads, and Nichols, the big D tackle, nearly dives for a pick there. So, yes, it was almost picked, but it had nothing to do with Will Rogers. 3rd and 10, and we need to go make a play here, right? It's like, well, we don't want to have to attempt a field goal. Mike Leach agreed with us. 3rd and 10 here, we get it to Woody, and Woody really runs hard here and tries to spin through Chris Paul, and it kind of spins into the tackle. There was nothing else there. Great effort by Woody on the play to make it a 4th and 3. Rather than kick it, we go for it. And we kind of caught them, and it seemed like maybe caught some of our linemen too. I don't know that we got a great initial push here. Q did, and Cole Smith did. But it seemed like the play was a little bit, the timing of it was a little bit off. But Woody just lowers his head, powers ahead for 4 yards to get the first down. Makes it a 1st and goal situation, the Arkansas 7. We go back to Woody for 1. DJ comes in late. We get a yard there, and it's 3rd and 5. And then we hit Jaden Wally. Now, this one here, great job by everybody here. Will Rogers buys some time, rolls out to his left, buys time, lays it up for Jaden Wally. Arkansas guy nearly picks it. It was too tall for him, though. And this isn't a thing that I'll remind you. Just because a defender touches a football doesn't mean it was nearly picked. This guy would have needed to be, Edward Moses or somebody to reach that. But he tips it, and Jaden Wally doesn't lose focus and catches it in. What a great catch there. Great job by Will. Nearly a great job by the defender. But a great job by Jaden Wally to maintain focus, to get the touchdown. And again, Austin Williams and Jaden Wally, really not much of the offense against A&M. Both of them have touchdowns within the first quarter today. Extra point is good. It's a 14-0 ball game, and I think everybody in the stadium and everybody watching on TV and everybody that was keeping up with this game on the radio or live stats or whatever thought, you know what, here we go. All right, Arkansas, again, a touchback. And great job, again, not to be lost in all this, because we get so wound up at times with place kicking, And there's a lot of aspects to it. There's the snap, the hold, there's the kick. It's not always on the kicker. But something is wrong with our battery here, and we're not able to get this stuff done. But how great has it been, more times than not, to be able to kick off and get that ball in the end zone? And State did a great job of doing that all game long on Saturday. So, touchback here, 1st and 10 from the Arkansas 25, and they immediately go behind the chains here. False start on Hazelwood. Hornsby's in the game now. And here's the thing, and I've read some of these things too, and I think it's important to understand this. So many people are like, well, Steve, you played a third-team quarterback. Yeah, we did. But this kid was highly recruited. This kid is legit. His time just hadn't come yet. At one time, Dak Prescott was a third-team quarterback too. Malik Hornsby is legit. Malik goes for 52 yards here, big gain there, and we're like, oh, we got a ball game. 1st and 10 from our 28-yard line. Rocket goes for 1. They go back to him for 5, brings up a manageable 3rd and 4. Then Malik Hornsby scrambles and gets a first down. 1st and 10 from our 17. They bring in Cade Fortin. I don't know if I understand this, but they did. Oh, yeah, I do remember this. This is when we had they flagged us for targeting and then looked back over and it was incorrect. That's right. Malik Hornsby took a big shot there, but it was a legal hit. He's going down. They're going down. Just football play. Fortin comes in, complete to Rocket, makes it 2nd and 8. They give it back to Sanders, who gets 7. Nathan Pickering with a nice play there. Brings up a 3rd and 1. They decide to go for it. And J.P. Purvis getting in there, forcing the quick throw, and it's incomplete. And then 4th and 1, they decide to go for it. They give it to Sanders, and who else would you give it to? We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But 4th and 1, and it's State blowing it up. Tyrus Wheat, Jalen Green. Turnover on downs. So State's scoreless quarter continues. All right, 1st and 10 now from the State 8. Last time we did this was against A&M. We went length of the field. All right, we'll complete to Austin Williams for a dozen here. Makes it 1st and 10 out of the State 20. Then we go to we hit Dylan Johnson on that little shovel, and then he runs 38 yards. Down to the Arkansas 42. So already in 2 plays, we're in plus territory. All right, 1st and 10 from the Arkansas 42. We run for 3 up the middle with DJ. And then we're complete to ducking for 4. A little crossing route there. Just kind of found a spot. That runs out the quarter. Gives State a good chance here, again, to kind of get some separation in this game. And this is a drive we should have scored on. 3rd and 3. We give it to Woody. He goes for 1. Doesn't work out. Right? And then we're complete to Woody for 12 yards and a first down. But this is when they call the blindside block. It was not a blindside block the way that I understand it because he had his numbers. It wasn't like he earholed him. They flag it. I thought it was a bad call. It is a spot foul. I know there's some people, too, that didn't fully understand that. And I've read some commentary from some people that I know and like, and I don't think they understand the concept either. There have been spot fouls, and there have been penalties from the spot of the foul, basically as long as there has been football. It's not a new rule. So we had made the first down. However, down the field, beyond the sticks, we commit a penalty, which backs it up 15 yards, which makes it a 4th and 5, not a 4th and 17. I thought we should have gone for it. Just me. Thought we should have gone for it. We take a delay of game here. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but Archer Trafford comes in, does a great job for us, lays it up there, and Jaden Wiley down the field, downs it at the 1 yard line. It's a good effort there, and you're thinking, okay, we've got a good chance here to get good field position and cash and a touchdown, and that's exactly what happens. They bring in A.J. Green, and, of course, Arkansas has this stable of running backs. A.J. Green goes for 5. They go back to him for 4, and then on 3rd and 1, J.P. Purvis knives through, and they hit him for no gain. Brings up a 4th and 1. They're backed up inside their 10. They have to punt here. Xavier Thomas gets a nice return here, 12 yards. So State sets up shop there at the Arkansas 40. So when you look at the change of possession here, we punted from the Arkansas 42. We got the football back at the Arkansas 40. So great job by the defense. And then Will Rogers and crew go back to work. Complete to Woody for 6. And then we hit Justin Robinson. It's good to see him making some plays. big, rangy, physical receiver. We need him out there in the pass pattern. Makes it 1st and 10 at the Arkansas 23. We're incomplete to DJ. We give the DJ on 2nd and 10. He gets 7. Then we're incomplete to Jameer Calvin. Great play by Simeon Blair here. This is another play, too, that I'll be like, oh, it was almost picked. It was not almost picked. It was not almost picked. You got a guy full extension laying out. If he picks that thing, it is one of the greatest picks in the history of college football. But Steve, it went off his hands. There was no way he's bringing that thing in. Use some deductive reasoning here. It's a broken up pass. But, of course, Will gets criticized for it, And you know what? Will probably had a pre-snap read thinking I'm going to go to Jameer right here because I got the look that I want. And Blair makes a great play. Brings up 4th and 3. We go for it. Give it to Woody. 1st down, the Arkansas 12. And a lot of people around me were thinking, just kick the field goal. This is not the football play. And Mike Leach is like, you know what? To heck with you and your traditions, your conventions. I'm going to go do my own thing. I don't trust my kickers. I'm just going to go out here and play football. All right, 1st and 10 now to Arkansas 12. We run up the middle for 2 with Woody. 2nd and 8, we're incomplete to Woody. Isaiah Nichols bats that ball down at the line. We had a couple of those, too. We had a couple of those. Arkansas did a good job getting their hands up along the defensive front and into passing windows. We had a couple balls batted down. 3rd and 8, we're complete to Austin Williams. And you remember that. Let me go back to that play by Nichols. That ball is batted right back into Will Rogers' face, and he wisely bats it down rather than catches it and takes a loss there. So heads-up play for Will, and I don't know that maybe got noted, but how many quarterbacks would panic in that situation and grab it trying to avoid an interception, take a big loss? But Will, coach's kid, high football IQ, it's like, nope. I just bat this thing down. It's an incompletion. I'm right back up there at the 10-yard line. That's exactly what happens. And then Will basically waggles left here, kind of on his own. Throws an absolute dime to the pylon, and Austin Williams, what an amazing catch. Austin with 2 acrobatic catches here in the first half. Extra point is good. It's 21-0. I think we all thought, you know what, this is going to get really, really ugly. It was getting late early in Starkville, Mississippi for the Arkansas Razorbacks. But give them credit. They didn't quit. Give Arkansas credit, and you know with Sam Pittman as their coach, they're not going to quit. Raheem Sanders and runs for 4 yards. Again, touchback. I never get tired of saying that. Ben Rabin with the touchback. All right, Rocket runs for 4. They give it to Sanders for 6, moves the chains, 1st and 10, back up the middle with Rocket for 2, back to Sanders for 9, another 1st down on the drive. Malik Hornsby then gets loose here and hits Keytron Jackson for 21. We had a few busts. And I would love to talk to Zach Arnett, maybe away from the cameras. They were obviously doing some things to get guys open. Maybe it's some eye candy they were showing because you have to respect the run so much of Malik Hornsby. But they were doing some things schematically to get guys wide open. We had, 3 or 4 busts on the day? And it seems like Hornsby hurt us every time. The kid's got a bright future. Got to work a little bit better on the intermediate stuff in a short passing game, but he's a very gifted athlete. I can see why Arkansas fans are excited about him. All right, 1st and 10. A.J. Green then runs for 4, back to Green for 1, makes it a 3rd and 5. And there's a false start on Arkansas, makes it now 3rd and 10. And Arkansas was upset about this too, like they were accusing State of simulating the snap. That's not us. That's what Kentucky does. All right, 3rd and 10. Fortin's incomplete. J.P. Purvis in his face again. And J.P. getting his first college start, I thought really played well in Bookie Watson's absence. Of course, Bookie came in late. Cam Little then steps in. And Cam, I know he missed that field goal against A&M. The guy's a really good kicker. Made a season-long 51-yarder. And it was good with change. Kickoff is good for a touchback. So State takes over, leading 21-3 with 5:56 to play in the first half. This is the Woody drive. Woody comes out, runs for 5. 2nd and 5. We're complete to Woody for 3, which makes it a 3rd and 2. And then we run up the middle for 1, makes it 4th and 1 from our own 34. And you know what? We're going again. Get ready, because here we go. And Woody gets a 1st down. Yeah. I like the urgency with our running backs. Like they understand, I got to get these 3 yards, and they do. 1st and 10 now from the State 38. I mean, who does that? You're up 18 points with your own side of the field, and you go for it. We do. We're complete then to Rufus. 1st and 10 out in their midfield now. Then DJ runs for 3 to get into Arkansas territory. Then it's complete. Dylan Johnson again, 11 yards here. That shovel pass continued to work for us. And there's so many times we've run that the last couple of years and it hadn't worked out, or it's just been okay. We gashed him with it a couple times on Saturday. 1st and 10 from the Arkansas 38. Complete to Scooby for 9, which brings up a manageable 2nd and 1. I don't know why we don't run here. I had to go back and look at the box here. And then we try to get it to Scooby Ford. And Hudson Clark comes through the receiver. And again, it's like, oh, it's almost picked. There was no way this ball was getting picked. Unless Scooby Ford falls down, the laws of physics would not have allowed this ball to be intercepted. He had to come through Scooby Ford and Scooby's left shoulder. Will's ball placement is off here, but this ball was not almost picked. I know what Dave Neal said. I'm not being critical of Dave. He had to come through the receiver to get a hand on it. And he did. He broke it up. It's a nice play by him. I think in some officials' eyes, you might have even called PI there. But it wasn't almost picked. Again, we reject the Hugh Kellenberger doctrine on principle. We work on what is and what is not. All right, 3rd and 1. Incomplete to Rara here. And then we go for it on 4th and 1. I didn't like the play call here. But again, they're loading the box, expecting us. I get it. I don't know if I wouldn't have run a toss play here, but the reality of it is it didn't hurt us. But this is a drive, too. You'd think you would like to have been able to put these points up and kind of quell the uprising from the Razorbacks here because, all of a sudden, they're kind of climbing back in the ball game. If you score here and you make it a 28-3 game just before the half, I think in many ways you might have taken their will away a little bit earlier. But give them credit. They get another bust, and he hits Hazelwood for 68 yards all the way down to the MSU 3, and then Sanders rushes in for the touchdown. So it's a 2-play drive there. Just not good, man. Just not. Those are the kinds of things, even in games like this, that are unacceptable on both ends of the field. You got to be able to get that 4th and 1, because let's not forget it was 2nd and 1, and then for 3 consecutive plays we get nothing. We get nothing, and then next thing you know, we give them life with a minute and a half to go of a bust on defense. So not good team football there, and it leads to a touchdown for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Now it's a 21-10 game, and they've got the ball coming out in the half, and we start thinking, you know what? Maybe we need to go down here and put some points on the board because if they score and it's a 21-17 game, makes it a 1-possession game late, anything can happen. You don't want to squander a 21-0 lead. So we get the ball again at our 31. We have Tulu returns it from the goal line and gets 31 yards here. So good return, so we're in pretty good field position. Then we had Jaden Wiley to get us into Arkansas territory. Under a minute to go. We're complete to Woody for 3. We call a timeout there with 42 seconds, but we're at the Arkansas 44. So plenty of time, plenty of playmakers, plenty to do, plenty of opportunity. We had to get a chance to go score here, right? All right. So it's we call it timeout there, and then we go to Tulu, and there's the PI there. And they didn't like the call. It was an obvious PI call. He's grabbing the jersey, he's holding, he's pushing, and then Tulu goes down. I don't know if Tulu would have made the catch or not, but McLaughlin from Arkansas made sure he didn't. He was beat on the play and not able to play the football, and it's not necessarily a bad penalty. I think if he doesn't grab him, it may end up being a touchdown. Not certain, but the possibility there. They didn't like the call. It was the right call. That gives us 1st and 10 at the 29. Now you're thinking, okay, we're going to go score. We get it to Woody. Brings up a 3rd and 3 at the Arkansas 22. Call timeout again. Incomplete to Woody here on 3rd and 3. Brings up 4th and 3. We call timeout. And we attempt a 40-yard field goal, and it's no good. And again, it's like, here we go. It's like, you know what? We were in complete control of this game, and now all of a sudden, we've kind of lost our way here. It's like after we go up 21-0, you're thinking this thing is over, and then Arkansas outscores us 10-0 the rest of the way. And it wasn't like State wasn't moving the football. It's our own inability to execute and finish these drives that kind of allowed Arkansas to hang around a little bit. It's not like Arkansas made the plays. That 4th and 1 pass to Rufus is a little bit low there. I still thought Rufus might have come up with it, but he didn't. And then here we are with a bust in the secondary. And so it's like all this stuff kind of works together. And it's good that you can, absorb the mistake, but you prefer not to make it in the first place. All right, so we missed a field goal, which would have made it a 24-10 ball game. You're just leaving points on the field, right? I know nobody's perfect. All right, 13 seconds to go. Then it's Hornsby, then incomplete, and Emmanuel Forbes with the PBU there. Malik Hornsby then runs for 6. And they hit it out to Raheem Sanders, just kind of let him run. And they're holding on the play. And so, if we accept the penalty, of course, it negates those 23 yards. But we just want to get into the half. Why give them another down? So we get into the half, State's up 21-10. We have played really well at times and not so well at others. I'd love to know what Mike Leach said at the halftime. All right, is coffee part of your morning routine? It is for me. And I found the secret, guys. It's called the good stuff. Make it part of your normal coffee routine. I don't know that I could make it through the morning without a good cup of joe. The good stuff makes it taste even better, and I've noticed significant improvements in how I feel each and every day. I don't have those up and down roller coaster type moments. I've had more energy without the typical crash. I'm more focused, and I've even noticed my skin and hair looking better. People have even commented, Steve, you're looking younger. Perhaps the good stuff is part of that transformation. Formulated by pro golfer Phil Mickelson and elite performance coach Dave Phillips, the good stuff will stimulate your metabolism, increase focus, support skin and joint health, and reduces the coffee jitters. For a limited time, Boneyard listeners can get 20% off, free shipping, and a free starter kit worth over $30 on their first purchase of the good stuff. Simply go to ForWellness, that's F-O-R, wellness.com/Boneyard to save on your first purchase. There's nothing like adding something new and getting to save some money in the process. So 20% off your first order plus free shipping and a free starter kit worth over $30 for a limited time when you visit forwellness.com/Boneyard. Again, that's FORWELLNESS.com/Boneyard. This is for wellness. Best offer right now, so don't wait. Order today. They're so sure you'll see the benefits of adding the good stuff to your coffee. They even back every purchase with a 60-day money-back guarantee. If you're not completely satisfied, you can get a full refund. Again, that's forwellness.com/Boneyard. Jump into this here. All right, second half. Raven kicks off, and this time it's not a touchback, and it's actually muffed by A.J. Green. It goes into the end zone. He panics, comes out, and gets down at the 1-yard line. And again, J.P. Purvis in the play there. Corey Ellington also assisting. All right, it's a good series for the defense here. We were all worried about this drive. I was. I'm thinking, you know what? They're going to come out and make their halftime adjustments, and what do? We pin them back deep. And again, they're making a special teams miscue rather than us. Sanders runs for 1 out to the 2-yard line. Sanders runs for 3, brings up a 3rd and 6 from the 5, and it's incomplete. And then they get a decent punt here, 53 yards to the MSU 42. It hits and bounces back. So again, even though we backed them up, good field position here for the Bulldogs. And we did what we should have done at the end of the half. We go down and score. All right, so we're incomplete to Williams, and it's broken up by Landon Jackson. We're complete to Rufus for 12, which moves the chains. 1st and 10 across midfield, the Arkansas 46. We go to Duck for 5, brings up a 2nd and 5. We give it to DJ, who runs for 8, moves the chains. 1st and 10 from the Arkansas 33. DJ stacked up at the line. One of the only maybe non-productive carries we had on the day. In 2nd and 10, we lay it up there, and Rufus knew it all the way. Paul Jones points out, too, on our message board. As soon as the ball was in the air, Rufus put his hands up. Great route concept there. Basically, a switch route that allowed Ducking to get loose. He's wide open for the touchdown. And it's pandemonium. Extra point's good. State's up 27-10. Now a 3-score game in the 3rd quarter. Arkansas comes out, tries to make a game of it. Sanders then runs for 12 to the Arkansas 37, again after the touchback. They hit a nice big play again, another bust here, and Hazelwood is loose for 44. Now it's 1st and 10 at the State 19, and then Sanders runs for 6. They go back to Sanders for 3, brings up 3rd and 1. Sanders pounds it down low and sets up a 1st and goal situation. Now 1st and goal from the 2, they give it to Sanders, and we stonewall him, and then we don't see him the rest of the drive. I thought that was rather interesting. And maybe he was gassed. I mean, he was very productive on this drive. Second one, they give it to Dominique Johnson. No gain. Malik Hornsby then rolls right, has the guy open out there, can't throw with the accuracy on the run. Duncan's in his face a little bit. Let's give Colin Duncan some credit there. And the ball is incomplete. They call timeout. And rather than come back out with Sanders, now granted he has sat the last two plays, you've called a timeout. It was a full timeout. They don't bring Sanders back in on 4th and 1. And they give it to Rashad DeBinion, and he gets absolutely jacked at the 1. I don't quite understand the personnel thing. And again, I don't know what's going on with Sanders. Maybe he was gassed. But you'd like to have the SEC's leading rusher there in a game you're trying to climb back into it. And the SEC's leading rusher is on the sidelines on a play that could ultimately, in many ways, decide the season for you. All right, 1st and 10 for State at their own 1. Woody gets us 1. Then we're complete to Tulu for 33 yards. We're off and running again, out to the MSU 35. Find Justin Robinson for 9, out to the State 44. And they end up calling a PI here. Didn't like this call either. PI on Jaden Wiley. Backs us up all the way back to the MSU 20. We call timeout. We talk about it. Then we're complete to Woody for 11. It makes it a more manageable situation. 2nd and 14, incomplete to Tulu. 3rd and 14, incomplete to Justin Robinson. And they call us for holding here. That's declined too. And then Archer, a decent punt here, 46 yards. Gets a 3-yard loss on a return. So great job on the special teams. Archer getting a very high arcing punt, giving us a chance to get down there and cover it. And this JP Purvis, again, doing big things. But again, a promising drive here, and then there's some mistakes. We get behind the chains. The good thing is you're able to get out of the shadow of your own goalpost and flip the field. We take over our 1. We give it back to them at their 20. That's a win for State, even though we don't get points. Arkansas takes over at their 20. Sanders goes for 3, then back to him for 4, which sets up a 3rd and 3. They're complete then to Sanders for 18 yards. And again, we just weren't getting out there. All right, 1st and 10 from the Arkansas 45, complete to Hazelwood for just the 1 yard there. Great play by Duncan and Jet Johnson. 2nd and 9, and here's the touchdown. And they stacked the formation. They stacked 4 receivers right, kind of like the old Mississippi Valley State formation. And he waits and waits and waits and waits and waits and lays it up there. And Bryce Stevens beats DeCamp, And great throw, great catch. I thought Bryce Stevens did a good job kind of adjusting and makes a nice running grab overhead there. So, tip of the cap to them. Disappointing, but great play by the Arkansas Razorbacks. They kick the extra point. Now it's 27-17 game. Kickoff is good, and Tulu runs it out for 35. They flag us for holding. They get Jordan Morant there. Now it's back at our 25. So the net exchange is basically a touchback. Stay with 3:23 to go. Comes out. Dillon runs for 2. We're incomplete to Ducking. Brings up a 3rd and 8. And then we come through again. 9 yards to Ra here for the first down. Kind of a quiet game for Ra. But here he is making a loud play when we need it. 1st and 10, 36, DJ runs for 3. We back to DJ for 11, which makes it 1st and 10 at midfield. We hit Rufus for 20. Great job by him to get loose here. Now it's 1st and 10 at the Arkansas 30, and then Dylan Johnson breaks off left side, and Nick Jones and Stephen Lasoya, guys we didn't talk an awful lot about in the preseason, kind of paving the path there for a touchdown. The kick from Rabin is good, and it's now a 34-17 ball game. At this point, I think everybody in the stadium knew how this thing was going to turn out. Another touchback. Thank you, Ben. Arkansas takes over to 25. Incomplete to Bryce Stevens. Pickering gets a big hand up there, knocks it down. Matt Landers then is incomplete to him. Forbes comes around, bats that ball down. So back-to-back PBUs for the Bulldogs. 3rd and 10. Malik Hornsby gets loose and runs for the first down. And I kind of like the Jaden Daniels thing. It's like you do a good job and you can't get home and he gets loose. All right, 1st and 10, he's complete to A.J. Green. And then A.J. Green runs right for no gain, which brings up a 3rd and 10. And that is what we take over in the 4th quarter. So State really in control here. And you just kind of felt like, we just got to play good defense here and let's get to the house. Keep running the football. 3rd and 10, Hornsby again gets loose. Runs for 25 yards. I hope we don't see another running quarterback this year. I mean, honestly, a true running quarterback. Malik Hornsby, I think, is even faster than Jaden Daniels. Both of them very elusive and very athletic. But if we don't have to see Hornsby again until next year, I'm okay with that. All right, 1st and 10 from our 40 after the big conversion there, and it's complete to Bryce Stevens for 5. Then we get to Hornsby for a sack. Jack Harris coming through there. Welcome back, Jack. All right, 3rd and 7 from the MSU 37. It's incomplete to Raheem Sanders. Brings up a 4th and 7. They go for it, and Hornsby just kind of throws it up for grabs, and it's Jackie Matthews that comes down with it, picking off 7 yards there on the return. All right, 1st and 10 from the 30. We're complete to Woody for 6. We run it to him for 3, which brings up a 3rd and 1, and Woody again takes care of it. 4 yards, runs through Simeon Blair there to get the first down. 1st and 10. We go back to Woody on a pass play for 16. Now we're in Arkansas territory at the 41. Incomplete to Woody Marks. It's just like the Woody Marks show. But there's a personal foul on Lennon Jackson, which moves it down to the Arkansas 26. All right, 1st and 10 now. Incomplete, short, but there's a PI penalty. We're going to Robinson there, and you could tell the Arkansas defense was getting a little bit tired. 1st and 10 now from the Arkansas 11. We go to Woody on a little short pass play, and then we're incomplete to Jameer Calvin. There clearly is an effort to get Jameer touchdowns. And then there's a PI call there, which makes it 1st and goal with the 2. We give it to Woody, and he's in the end zone. And it's good to see Woody did some big work on this drive, and really in the second half, that Woody really looked good. And what a great luxury to have 2 backs like Woody and Dylan Johnson, right? And now here we go, and the point after is no good. You know, this is, you know, we had the one earlier that was botched. The snap was bad. Then we missed this kick here, and it's just, you know, you just get sick of it, man. I mean, I wish it wasn't an issue. And you'd say, well, we've got these big scoring margins, but at some point it's going to matter. We're going to have to make a kick to win a ball game. All right, touchback again. Thanks, Ben. 1st and 10. Arkansas takes over with 10:28 to play. It's 40-17. And then, you know, Hazelwood rushes for 8. They give it to DeBinion for 12. Brings up a first down. 1st and 10. Hornsby then goes for 12. DeBinion for a 1-yard loss. Then DeBinion goes for 10. Makes it 3rd and 1. DeBinion runs again. And then Hornsby tries to, let's be the hero here, and throws it up for grabs. And it's Emmanuel Forbes Jr., bringing down the pick. Very athletic play there. That gives him 4 on the year. The guy's an all-SEC guy. I think he should be an All-American consideration. I'm biased, but the guy's outstanding. One of the best defensive backs to ever play at Mississippi State. All right, State takes over here at 7:23 to go in the game. We're incomplete to Tulu. And then Simeon Price runs for a hard 8 yards at the middle. And then we're incomplete to Ducky. We punt again. And George Geropoulos, 44-yard punt to the Arkansas 28. Arkansas takes over there at 6:25 to go. DeBinion runs for 4. DeBinion runs for a 1-yard loss. And it's a false start again on Arkansas. Brings up a 3rd and 12. Hornsby runs for 6. And Tyra Sweet absolutely destroys him out in the flat there. And then Reed Bauer punts for 44. And Xavier, 5-yard loss here on the return. And then State runs the clock out here. Dillon goes for 2. Will Rogers complete to Jordan Mosley for 15 yards. And it's good to see Jordan up there running around a little bit. J.J. Jernigan then runs for 5. Will Rogers complete to Mosley again for 28. So you're in there for one drive. You get 2 grabs for 43 yards. That dog will hunt. J.J. Jernigan runs for 7, then runs for 1. That's the game. And Bulldogs win 40-17. Let's take a quick look at the numbers. We got a lot to do here in these last few minutes together. Let's look at the individual numbers here. Quickly, State with 33 first downs in the game. Arkansas just 18. Of course, most of State coming through the air, but it's 16 passing, 11 rushing for State. State runs for 173 yards. Arkansas 241. They are a run-first team. With or without K.J. Jefferson, you're not going to reinvent the offense. But, hey, good job for those guys. And we're not going to see a lot of teams that can run it with the same level of success that they do the rest of the way. Of course, Alabama and Georgia, pretty balanced offenses, but some very talented backs that we'll see there. But 37 rushing attempts for Mississippi State. 173 yards, the highest rushing net total for Mike Leach in his time at Mississippi State. State throws for 395 yards. Will Rogers 31 of 48. Hornsby and Fortin combined 10 of 23 with 2 picks. It's like you got the big plays, but outside of that, you don't have much. You can't win games that way. You've got to be able to sustain drives. State with 568 yards of offense. Punts, 3 for 131 for us, 43.7 yard average for State. Of course, the one that was down inside the 1 yard line. Outstanding effort there. The return game, not much there. Punt returns for Arkansas, 1 for -3, us 2 for 7 yards. So we thought Xavier Thomas might have a chance. This didn't work out. But State possessed the ball 35-41. Arkansas does 24-19. State allowed 8 of 16 third down conversions, and State is 5 of 13 on third down offensively, but go for it 4 times and make it 3 or 4 times. Should have been 4 for 4. Arkansas went for it on fourth down, went 0 for 3, and I believe lost yardage on every single one of those plays. They had the 2 times they were stoned inside the red zone, and then, of course, the pick. So they net no yards. Red zone chances, Razorbacks 1 for 3, State 4 for 4. State also 2 sacks, and the Bulldog offensive line did not allow a sack for the second consecutive week. PAT were 4 or 5, and it's like the other one didn't count. We count that as a 2-point conversion fail. But anyway, again, individual numbers here before we get to our top 10 list. Will 31 of 48, 395, 3 touchdowns, Long of 38. Dylan Johnson, the first 100-yard rusher for Mississippi State since Colin Hill did it in the 2019 Egg Bowl. 17 carries, 2 touchdowns, 100 yards. We'll take that all day. And then Woody Marks, not in any way to be overshadowed, 52 big rushing yards, but you know what? He had 80 receiving. So you start looking at the combination of these two guys and what they're doing all purpose. It's an absolutely outstanding effort. DJ with 49 receiving yards too. So he has 149 yards, and then Woody 132. You begin to kind of do the math on that. The backs in the Mississippi State offense are getting touches. Caleb Ducking, the leading receiver from a wide receiver standpoint, 4 grabs, 50 yards, and a touchdown. And then Jordan Mosley with 2 and 43. Rufus had 3 for 42. Austin Williams, 3 for 42. 2 Ludus, 1 for 33. Jaden Waller, 2 for 27. Had the score there. And then Justin Robinson, 1 for 11. But it seemed like we targeted him a little bit more. Just couldn't always connect. Rah-Rah, just the 1 for 9. Scooby Ford, also 1 for 9. Defensively, Arkansas racked up a lot of tackles because Mississippi State ran a lot of plays. You had Drew Sanders with 16, Bumper Poole with 14. And along the way, Bumper Poole breaks the Arkansas career record for tackles. So congratulations to Bumper Poole. Jed Johnson led Mississippi State with 11 tackles. Jalen Green with 7. DeCamp with 7. Colin Duncan also with 7. Emmanuel Forbes with 6. Nate Watson with 6. J.P. Purvis with 6. And think those two basically played as one person, right? One guy played the first half, the other guy mostly played the second half. And you had basically 12 tackles combined. Good effort there. Randy Charlton, too, an impact player on the game, 5, and then the big play inside the swim move to get loose there to stone him on fourth down. Nathan Pickering also with 5. Cam Young with 5. You're going to have a lot of these in the front 7, front 6 against running teams. Ty Weedov with 4. And Jack Harris, 4 tackles. So thumbs up for Jack. Nice contribution. Jackie Matthews with 2, and, of course, also had the pick. But great game by the Bulldog defense from a scoring standpoint. Again, a lot of yards in the game, but as we have learned, in recent years, that nobody cares about yards if you don't score. And when we were on offense last year at times, moving the ball over the field and weren't finishing drives and scoring, nobody felt sorry for Mississippi State. So I don't feel sorry for Arkansas now. State's tough between the 20s. You get down there and you get some big plays. And think about it, Arkansas could not sustain drives against Mississippi State and finish drives. They had some big plays, and those big plays count. But with this defense, you're going to have some of that. How many of those big plays didn't happen because we had somebody in their face? And how many times did we get a quarterback on the ground, or sometimes we run blitz and stonewall things before they even get started? And so you're going to have to kind of live with some of that. But the reality of it is Mississippi State's 5-1, now ranked 16th in the country. All right, time for today's top 10 list, brought to you by closewithblair.com. That's C-L-O-S-E with Blair, B-L-A-I-R, closewithblair.com. Blair is your friend in the mortgage industry. Been my friend a long time. Think a lot of that guy. Does a great job. I don't care who you are, where you're from. You stay in any industry 20 years, you know what you're doing. 21 years of experience. Works for Fairway Mortgage. recently voted number one in customer satisfaction with mortgage loan origination. Hit Blair up today. Text or call at 601-500-2344. 601-500-2344. We've had some Boneyard listeners that have taken advantage of Blair services, been very satisfied with the results. I've heard from multiple customers praising Blair Chandler for his work. If you mention to him you heard about him on the Boneyard, doesn't matter if it's email or text or phone call or carrier pigeon, then Blair Chandler will pay for your appraisal. We like to keep it in the family around here. Blair is a Bulldog fan through and through, has a place here in Starkville, season ticket holder in multiple sports. Be sure and check him out today. That's closeofblair.com. Okay, so Roy hit me up today and said, hey, Steve, what about, I know you like hair metal, what about top one-hit wonders? And you guys like those too. And so we're going to be quick with this list because we don't have a lot of time. I don't want this to be an elongated show. But we're going to be quick with the list here. All right, top 10. Number 10 for me, Stranger Than Paradise by a band called the Sleaze Bees. They had a couple of other good tracks. That's probably their signature song and the biggest hit they had. Number 9, a band that sounded an awful lot like Dokken. The guitar tone very similar to George Lynch. It's a band called XYZ. I love that debut album from them. The one hit they had was Inside Out. And if you've heard it, and you'll know what I'm talking about. When you listen to it, sounds a lot like Dokken. Number 8, a band that I liked a lot, very obscure in many respects. They had a big track that I liked called Dancing on Coals, but their big hit was Someone Like You. That was on Dial MTV at the time. It's Bang Tango's Someone Like You. Number 7, the band that actually started the flannel craze that many people credit to the Seattle bands, the first band on MTV that kind of quit wearing spandex and leather jackets, was a band called Trickster. Their debut single, their biggest hit, it's Give It To Me Good. When you're ready to be bad, just give it. Give it to me good. All right, number 6, a band from Memphis, Tennessee, Anthony Quarter, actually my friend on Facebook, like that guy a lot. Need to get out and see Tora Tora. Their debut single, great track called Walking Shoes. I love that whole debut album, Surprise Attack. The second album, Wild America, very good too, but the only big hit they had was Walking Shoes. Phantom Rider had a little bit of a run too. Number 5, a band called Brittany Fox. Very typical for the time. Their first single was a song called Long Way to Love that was actually really cool. But their big hit, a great video too. It's a song called Girl School. At the girl school, my baby broke all the rules. Number 4, a band that was expected to do huge things. Their debut album, The Disregard of Timekeeping, a band called Bonham. Jason Bonham, the son of legendary Led Zeppelin drummer John Bonham, was kind of the name in this band. The only hit they had was Wait For You. There was a great track on that album called Guilty that is also amazing. But Wait For You, the only real commercial success they had. Number 3, a huge hit here. One of the best vocalists of the time. Don't know that he gets enough respect. It's the band Steelheart in the song I'll Never Let You Go, subtitled Angel Eyes, because you have angel eyes. All right, number 2, I love this band. Matter of fact, I've got a pretty big tattoo in honor of this band's second album, Freak Show. But we got to go back to the debut album, the self-titled Bullet Boys album. Their debut single, also their biggest hit, it's Smooth Up In Ya, which is an amazing track. It's basically about female attraction. Let's just say that. But number 1 for me, and I think this is an absolute banger of a track, and it was absolutely a one-hit wonder. They had a little bit of success with their follow-up, a track called 19 and Nonstop. But it's Turn Up the Radio by the band Autograph. And when they hit the scene, we thought they were going to be the next big thing. Just not a lot of great songs on that debut album. But Turn Up the Radio. It still gets played on the radio these days. It's a lifestyle, shall we say. That's your top 10 list for today. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out and let me know. I'm happy to consider them. The best way to get those to us is to hit up Roy on Twitter at Dogmatic67. That's DAWGMATIC67. You can also find our great list on Spotify under that same handle, Dogmatic67. Also tweet those out and share them on Facebook. Appreciate your support of the top 10 list. And we're going to change a little bit. There are times, I struggle to find bands or artists that I think are worthy of our time. And so we used to do some things early on. So it's not just music. So if you think of something, I've had some people say, hey, Steve, what's your favorite moments and certain rivalries and things like that. So we might bring one of those lists later this week. And so not everybody's a music person. I get it. And some of you let me know that. It's like, Steve, I always fast forward to the top 10 list. Well, that's your loss. But that's our top 10 list for today. Okay, next segment of the show is our look around the Southeastern Conference, brought to you by Campus Bookmart. I love Campus Bookmart. You will too. I have had so many people that said, Steve, I never shopped with Campus Bookmart until they began advertising on your show. And I've had Kathy Brown tell me that the best form of advertising they have ever had has been the Boneyard. And it's because of that great promo code. Like so many people, they can track it to see how you guys are doing, right? So visit campusbookmart.net and use promo code BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. And that'll get you free shipping on all orders over $50. Any order less than $50, absolutely incomplete. Again, that's campusbookmart.net, promo code BSR. Okay, we had some great games for breakfast on Saturday. Of course, you guys were with me at Davis Wade Stadium as the Bulldogs won 40-17. Tennessee goes into Tiger Stadium, and I believe I saw this, and I believe it's correct. It's the biggest margin of victory for Tennessee in the series with LSU. I'm too lazy to look it up because we're kind of short of time. But Tennessee, 40-13 winners. I remember a game in the early 2000s when Tennessee went down there with Kelly Washington, and they ran that 7 route over and over and over again, and LSU just absolutely could not stop it. But Tennessee, a top 10 team, and facing a really big matchup this week at home against Alabama. So 40-13 winners. And Hendon Hooker, nobody's really talking about this guy as much as they should. Is he the Heisman Trophy winner at this point? Like if we were to give a halfway point Heisman Trophy winner, is it not him? Guys, this was a 23-7 game at the break. And after 3, it's 37-7 in Death Valley. Incredible, man. Absolutely incredible. We look at the numbers too. Hooker, 17-27, 239 yards through the air, a couple touchdowns, and then ran for 56. So a nice day for him, and small runs for 127 yards. The Tigers, not very strong against the run. Jaden Daniels, a pretty good game, though, 32 of 45 for 300 yards through the air, also threw a big pick. But they could not run the football against Tennessee, which will be awfully interesting this week to see how that Tennessee front matches up against Alabama. That Tennessee secondary is pretty leaky. I just don't know if Alabama, with a quarterback with a bad arm, can really exploit that. We'll see. We'll talk about that later in the week. Missouri gives Florida a bit of a scare. And that's the thing, too. You look at Eli Drinkwitz's team. They've nearly pulled it off against Georgia and nearly pulled it off against Florida. But those are moral victories. They're 2-4. You don't get any credit for that in the standings. The Tigers now 0-3 in the Southeastern Conference. But it was a 10-10 game at the break. And then Florida outscores them 14-7 down the stretch. Missouri had their opportunities in the fourth quarter, just could not get over the hump. But Florida puts the game away late with a late 18-yard touchdown run to make it a 24-17 game. But, it was 24-10, and then Missouri scores late to make it 24-17. But, again, a competitive game for the Tigers, but how long do you put up with that? You know, what's next for Mizzou? Auburn, I told you guys on Friday I thought Georgia would have a get-right game against Auburn. They absolutely did. I don't know that the score is indicative of how dominant Georgia was in this game. I think a lot of people, including myself, kind of wondered, what's it look like in this ball game with so much up and down with Georgia this season? You know, they struggled with Kent State. They weren't exactly amazing against Samford. They struggled last week against Missouri. They have a 14-0 lead here after a scoreless first quarter. 21-3 after 3 quarters, and then Georgia pours it on in the fourth quarter, and the Auburn defense just simply wore down. And that Auburn defensive front is supposed to be, their calling card on a defense is not expected to be good. They just absolutely wore down in a 21-point fourth quarter for Georgia to put it away 42-10. So no real surprise there. The Battle of the Vanderbilts goes in the favor of Ole Miss, but a wild game. As I said on Twitter, you can always just kind of throw out the record books when these two get together. the Bow Tie Bowl is, I think, what we're going to call it. I saw where ESPN called it the Khaki Bowl, which I think is funny. Some Ole Miss people got upset about that. But Vandy actually jumps out to, a 13-3 lead here, and then has a 20-17 lead at the break. Ole Miss gets right there in the third quarter, 21-0 in the third quarter. And then Ole Miss scores again late, and a lot of people talked about that. And here's what I'll say. I don't criticize these guys for scoring again late. It's not Ole Miss's job to stop Ole Miss. They're down there close, right? That's just the reality of life. You're playing, you think you're playing for something substantial, style points matter. And it was not a great game for Ole Miss through two quarters, but in the second half, they absolutely dominate. They outscored the Commodores 35-8 in the second half to cruise 52-28. Again, interesting game for a while, and Jonathan Mingo, the other co-offensive player of the week, set a new Ole Miss single-game receiving record. And let's be honest, Jonathan Mingo's been hurt a lot in his career, but maybe has not lived up to his potential. He certainly did on Saturday, and we certainly give him credit for that. All right, South Carolina goes into Lexington, Kentucky. Of course, Will Levis did not play for Kentucky. I'm not sure that it mattered. But South Carolina, pretty anemic offensively, but they gave Kentucky some trouble. It was 7-7 at the break, and then South Carolina kind of seized control there in the third quarter to take a 17-7 lead. Use all these notifications rolling, and I apologize for that. And then Kentucky had their chances late, but just simply could not catch up. South Carolina, a 24-7 lead in this ball game. It was 6 minutes to go in the game. Yeah, there was never any question in that fourth quarter who was going to win the game. But Levis didn't play, so they started Sharon, who went 15 of 27 for 178 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. And South Carolina all over the Kentucky quarterback. Chris Rodriguez, a good game for Kentucky, 22 carries for 126 yards. That'll be job one for Mississippi State. It's kind of slowing him down. And we'll talk more about Kentucky on Wednesday. But this vaunted receiving corps for Kentucky, not a good day. Leading receiver on the day was Magwood, 2 catches for 37 yards, and really did not have anybody that had more than 2 catches on the day. And that's just simply not going to work. But again, Kentucky not able to protect the passer and not able to rush the passer. I read a statistic. They've allowed 25 sacks in 6 games, which is the most for an SEC team in like over a dozen years. And so when you think about this, you have a leaky secondary, and then you don't rush the passer. That should give Will Rogers plenty of time to survey the field and distribute the football. On the flip side of that, Kentucky, so dependent on the running game, they have become pretty much one-dimensional because they can't protect the passer. And then if Levis does play this week, and I understand he has a dislocated finger that he's dealing with, and then he has a severe case of turf toe. Now, he sat out last week. They lose. I'm sure they'll try to get him right this week. But you've got a guy with a foot injury that's not especially mobile with that foot injury, and you've got an offensive line that is really struggling to stop the pass rush. They have not faced a defense as aggressive as what they'll see Saturday night from Mississippi State. And the line obviously favors State. It exploded shortly after it opened. I think State should win this game handily, and we'll talk about it again more about that on Wednesday. But the Wildcats have now lost 2 in a row. I have read with great interest, though, that some of the Kentucky apologists had said that Kentucky has lost to lesser opponents the last 2 weeks. I don't know that I agree with that. And I'm never an apologist for Ole Miss. Ole Miss is playing well, and we knew that Kentucky may be the only team to give them trouble in maybe the first half of the season. They did. But, however, how can you say that Ole Miss was an inferior opponent just because Kentucky was ranked ahead because they started ahead? I think Ole Miss is the better team, especially playing at home. Now, you want to say that you're a better team in South Carolina? You certainly should be, but you weren't. And I don't think if Will Levis plays, it makes that much of a difference because, you can't. Maybe you limit your offense a little bit, but you couldn't stop South Carolina and you couldn't protect your own quarterback. Those are the things that, I think you get into and you begin to kind of question the thought process. Some people thought beginning of the year, well, Kentucky may contend for the SEC East Championship. I told you guys here on this show, there's absolutely no way that's going to happen. There was never any chance of that happening. because they're not going to beat Georgia. They're not going to beat Tennessee. And that's the thing. You start looking at this Kentucky schedule. I think there's a good chance they're not ranked here pretty soon. They were top 10 here recently. And you look at who they played, Miami of Ohio. They go beat Florida, which at the time seemed like a pretty big win. They beat Youngstown State. They struggle with Northern Illinois. They lose to Ole Miss. And then they lose to South Carolina. They have not played good football for 3 consecutive weeks, and then State's going in up there. Next week they get a bye week, and then they get Tennessee. They go to Missouri. They get Vanderbilt. Then they get Georgia, and they get Louisville. And so you start looking at this, they're already a 4-2 team. I picked them 8-4, and I think now you begin to wonder now if they're not a 7-5 team. I don't believe they're going to beat Mississippi State. I don't believe they can win at Tennessee, and I certainly don't think they can beat Georgia, despite the fact some people picked them to beat Georgia early on. So they might actually be a 7-5 team when it's all said and done, which is one of the main reasons State's got to go up there and take care of business this weekend. Final game of the night, and it was an awfully fun one, and we didn't expect it to be. Maybe you guys had a little more foresight than I did. I thought Alabama would kill A&M even without Bryce Young. I thought Alabama would be so motivated to play, and A&M would be reeling a little bit after losing the way they did to Mississippi State. But A&M has a chance to win it the final play of the game at the 2-yard line. Don't like the play call. I watched Nick Saban's video explaining their defense of that play. It was amazing to see kind of the genius at work there. And you kind of understand they had a really good idea of what was going to happen. And one of the defensive backs said he saw Jimbo Fisher call the receiver's name. Like, hey, we're going to go here, we're going to go here. So he was prepared for the play. But, it's a 17-14 game at the break for Alabama. And even with all these athletes, Alabama didn't look like Alabama. Alabama's great, don't get me wrong, but they're not as good as they have been. I think we would all agree there. And granted, Bryce Young didn't play, so just 12 of 19 from Milroe for 111 yards, but 3 touchdowns and a pick. And then Gibbs runs for 154. Milroe adds 83. That's the thing you worry about. When Mississippi State plays Alabama, what are we going to do when we blitz and can't get home? And they've got these mobile quarterbacks. Haynes King, 25 of 46 for A&M, 253 yards, played on a bad wheel that whole fourth quarter. You almost wonder maybe that last play call would have been different if he'd been healthy. Alabama Levitt's Devin Achane, 16 carries to 62 yards. Haynes King runs 8 times for just 10 yards. My hope was for A&M that Haynes King would free some things up for Achane. They didn't. But, again, not a great night of offense for either team, but a great ball game. Let's take a quick peek ahead at what is to come the rest of this week. And again, I think last week when we picked the winners here, we picked Tennessee, Mississippi State, Florida, Georgia, Ole Miss, Kentucky, and Alabama. So we do drop the South Carolina-Kentucky game. And, that's the thing, too. If Kentucky had been a great team, I think many of us would have said, oh, well, now we get them angry. I think everybody sees them now as vulnerable. So let's take a quick peek ahead. And, again, we'll detail these games in much greater detail on Friday. Auburn is at Ole Miss. I don't think anybody right now affiliated with SEC football thinks Auburn can go into Oxford and win that game. And it's not that Ole Miss is great. They're doing what they need to do. I just think Auburn is just such a mess offensively, and Ole Miss has improved defensively. I think Ole Miss wins this game. I think Ole Miss is favored by more than 2 touchdowns. Now, give Auburn a little credit. They put a scare in LSU here recently, but that was at home, though, and I don't think LSU is that great. I think Ole Miss is better than both of those teams. Vanderbilt will be at Georgia. It's a huge spread for Vandy. They have no chance to win that game. Alabama, of course, at Tennessee. For the first time, it seems like in a decade or more, there is some intrigue when it comes to the third Saturday in October. And that's that stupid tradition that every sport is impacted by. But that'll be an awfully interesting game. And that's the thing, too. It's like we'll be able to watch that game before we play. Excited about that. Arkansas will be at BYU. Neither team ranked. Both have been ranked. That'll be, I think, an intriguing matchup. I think with KJ Jefferson back, I think you like Arkansas there. But, again, we'll do a little more research. LSU is at Florida and, of course, State at Kentucky. We will really break down the Cats on Wednesday and then preview the rest of the schedule. But it should be a good slate of games. I think it's a good day. Like if you're not going to Lexington, it should be a good day to sit around and watch football. Now, speaking of those that are not going to the game, maybe you want to congregate with some Bulldog fans and watch a game. Let me encourage you to do that by going to Davis Wade Stadium. You're like, Steve, really? Yeah. Go to Davis Wade Stadium because they're going to have a fundraiser. It's the Palmer Home for Children. They call it a tailgate. It's really not a tailgate. But it's going to be one of these deals where you go and you watch the game with other Bulldog fans, and then they're there to raise money for Palmer Home. Be sure and go check them out. You'll be glad you did. Palmer Home, I'm happy to do that. We're doing this spot for free because, number one, I believe in what Palmer Home is doing, Palmer Home for Children. And you can visit them at palmerhome.org. Palmerhome.org. And we're going to advertise this throughout the week. And we'll have more details for you on Wednesday. But there will be a tailgate in the Gridiron Club, I guess is what we're going to call it. They call it a tailgate. It's really not. It is indoors. So if you're in the area and you'd like to go to a watch party that's going to benefit children, this is the move. And again, go to palmerhome.org to get more information about that fine organization. And we'll be back with you on Wednesday, and we'll give you a few more details about that. So again, if you're not making the trip to Lexington, you can still get together and enjoy that wonderful ball game with other Bulldog fans. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by Portico. I've told you guys before, if I was moving to Starkville now, I would move to Portico. I like how close it is to campus. I like how convenient it is because I'm a traveler. I'm always on the move, it seems. And to have easy access to 12, 25, 82, it's perfect. Just jump right on out there. It's very easy to get to. You turn off 82 on 12 like going to campus. The very first right is Pat Station Road. You've seen it before and you wonder where it went. You go through that four-way stop, and there's Portico on your right. You can start with a two-bedroom, two-bath home, go all the way up to a four-bedroom, four-bath home, and you can even get a custom build, too, like maybe if you need a home office or a home theater, whatever. You contact them, and they can kind of build to your specifications. Pretty cool, so you can be able to do that, right? And maybe it's your ball game weekend retreat. Maybe it's your permanent residence. Maybe it's your retirement home. They've got a plan for you. Reach out to our friend Brooks Bryan. His phone number, 601-416-8075. He can get you more information. And if you're thinking about moving up here and your real estate agent hasn't mentioned Portico, you need to ask him why. It's perfect. 1.1 miles away from the Mississippi State campus. You can run to campus if you want to. And the cool thing is, too, is like maybe you're getting up in age. You're thinking, you know what, it's difficult for me to get back and forth to ball games. Why don't you move up here and go to all the games? Then you can be home in like 2 minutes. What could be more convenient? Again, if I was moving to Starkville now, it's where I would move. And again, let Brooks know what's going on with you. He's happy to help you. All right, Bulldog fans, make Portico your next move. I want to credit our Bulldog fans that turned out. We didn't have a capacity crowd. We did sell out tickets, but there was some patches in the upper areas. I thought the lower bowl was really full. A couple of spots over on the west side there. But those that attended the game were very much into the game, and I think gave State a very good home field advantage. I can only begin to imagine. There's some people, of course, that stayed in the junction, to each their own. But I begin to just imagine what that home field advantage will be like when, let's say, we play Georgia here. Should be a big game. Should be a near capacity crowd, if not a capacity crowd. Your cowbell could be the difference. So I encourage you to come out. And again, for those that showed up, and again, it was an amazing atmosphere. And a lot of people from SEC Nation talked about it. They talked about it on the broadcast. And I thought our fans were very much plugged into the game. And again, once the game kind of got out of hand, I think some people decided to go to their tailgates and watch some other games or whatever, or maybe make the trip home. But it was a good turnout, and again, a great atmosphere. And that's such a huge part of the recruiting aspect of things, is that when players are here, they know that Bulldog fans are engaged in the game and supporting the Bulldog fans. So we had some big recruits here. We had a couple of official visitors. Of course, Seth Davis, committed to Mississippi State for a long time, took his official visit here. Creed Whitmore is another guy that's currently from Gainesville, Florida, committed to the University of Florida. He took an official visit here. Isaac Smith, One of my favorite players in this class. You've heard me talk about him many times on this show. I believe he is a future NFL guy. He has now been to Mississippi State 3 consecutive weekends. Every game of the homestand, Isaac Smith was here. Now, I believe I was the first person to kind of put the wheel on this bandwagon and said, you know what, State's in good shape. I put a crystal ball pick in for him. I believe he is going to pick Mississippi State and ultimately sign with Mississippi State. And now he's been here 3 consecutive weekends. Spent a lot of time on our campus this year. Came for the 7-on-7, came back for the SummerSlam. I believe he's been to 4 games now. I believe that's correct, but I know he's been to the last 3. This guy is a difference maker. And when you begin to look at this defense and the fact that we have several safeties that will be moving on, there's an opportunity for him to come in and play as a freshman. And, of course, I'm sure that is something the Mississippi State coaching staff is sharing with him on a regular basis. So I like where we stand. In fact, I feel better today than I have at any point in his recruitment about Mississippi State getting him. Now, if you have followed my coverage of recruiting over at genespage.com this year, I said from the very beginning that he was going to Ole Miss because my sources up there in Fulton, up in Itawamba County, said, hey, Steve, his dad went to Ole Miss, got a lot of Ole Miss people around him. He's been in some Ole Miss games. He's a guy that, probably going to go to Ole Miss. And I don't know what changed with him. I don't know if Ole Miss's evaluation doesn't match ours or match mine or match Georgia's or A&M. But either way, he and Ole Miss not having much of a relationship. And that's not necessarily anybody's fault. I think the guy can really play. I think Ole Miss is missing a boat here. But again, they may have different needs. I don't know. But I know this, that things have changed in his recruitment. And at Mississippi State appears to be the in-state destination should he choose to stay in-state. Now, he is a guy that's going to take his visits. He's already been to Vanderbilt. There's talk about him visiting Georgia. There's talk about him visiting Texas A&M. And so we talk about him taking an official visit to Mississippi State. I think in the end, the chances of him staying home are very, very good. At this point, I expect Mississippi State to get him. Now, LSU has recently offered, so that's something else to consider, right? LSU is LSU. And then watching LSU get beat 40-13 on Saturday probably doesn't hurt the cause, right? But the reality is young people see opportunity. They say, you know what, I'm better than these guys. I can get on the field next year. I think the chances of him getting on the field at Mississippi State are much better than they are at LSU, at least early in his career. Is he good enough to play at LSU? He absolutely is. Is he good enough to play at Georgia? He absolutely is. Is he good enough to play at Alabama? He absolutely is. He's certainly good enough to play at Mississippi State. I think he'd be a real difference maker and be a fan favorite here. And so he was here again. And so I think it's important to kind of understand that. Now, Dante Dowdell, running back from Picayune, there was talk that he may make the trip. He did not make it on this Saturday. There is talk that he will make a later game once State comes back. We've got a 2-game road trip here as we go to Kentucky and Alabama. But there is discussion that he will be back. Now, a lot of chatter that he's going to back off that Oregon commitment. And we see that regularly where Oregon gets a Southern kid early and then reality kind of sets in. It's easy to be committed to Oregon and say March, and all of a sudden you start thinking, oh, wait a minute, I'm an early grad. I'm going to be leaving for Oregon in January. Be leaving all my friends. And so it's a different situation, right? And so I think ultimately he will elect to stay closer to home. Ole Miss very much in with him. Ole Miss thought they had him when he picked Oregon. They have not stopped recruiting him. Mississippi State's yet to offer him, which is kind of a head-scratcher for me. I don't know why we didn't offer him early on. And one of the reasons that I say that, when you have a 4-star athlete in your state, even if you're not exactly sure what he's going to play position-wise, was he running back, is he a linebacker, what is he? You take him and you figure it out. When you've got a guy that's got that kind of ability, and I understand in some circumstances you might say, well, I want to get him in camp. When you've got a guy like that that's already got a couple dozen offers, that kid's not coming to camp. It's kind of like the whole John Hevesy thing, right? Well, I'm going to go recruit these kids. I want them to come to camp and see how well they take coaching. Well, when they've got offers from Alabama, Tennessee, and LSU, they're not going to go camp Mississippi State to go try to earn an offer when in their minds they feel they've got better options already. So that's something we're kind of working through. Can State get in there and really make things interesting? There was some discussion back in the spring. If State had offered, he would have committed to Mississippi State. Well, now we're kind of trying to mend the fence a little bit, and we'll see what happens. But the reality of it is I think State should have already offered him, and perhaps we will late. You certainly don't want to lose a guy of that caliber by default to Ole Miss. But Dante Dowdell is a big-time player from Picayune High School. And listen, I know a lot of Picayune running backs have set up some amazing high school careers and not translated well to the college level. I think Dowdell is much different. That guy can really, really play. That's your recruiting update for today. All right, let's get out of here. If you hadn't done so, go to dogpilethebook.com. You get all my sports books there. Dogpile, Flim Flam, Alpha Dogs, and Stark Villains. Stark Villains, I know Miss Carolyn at Book Martin Cafe, I think is in the single digits now. And I believe there's only one case left in the warehouse. And so if you want a copy of Stark Villains, you need to order it now. Alpha Dogs, there's probably twice as many of those. And again, those are not going to go back into print for probably a year or more. We'll do a short run probably in 2024. And so if you're looking to complete your collection, you need to go ahead and make a move there. I hadn't talked about that in a while, but because I hadn't thought about it. I've been so busy doing a rock show, right? And you go back and you look, and I talked to Carolyn yesterday. I was like, how are you on Stark Villains? We go to the warehouse and look, they don't have many left. And so, of course, our warehouse doesn't either. So be sure and check in on them. But dogpilethebook.com, you get them all signed. And then if you're looking for Bloomsville Leander, you can find it at Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, BooksAMillion.com. And Stark Villain gear, always available at StarkVillains.com. I actually went by there and met with them on Friday before I went to New Orleans and picked up some shirts to give some people, some friends of mine in the music industry that say they're going to wear them on stage. And hopefully we'll get some pictures of that. So how cool would that be? That'd be nice marketing, right? Have a rock star out there wearing our shirt on stage. That'd be cool. That's nice. And we're going to have some other rock shows coming up too. I'm working on some things. I'm just kind of recalibrating right now because now we're in the second half football season, so I don't have as much time to commit to that. And looking forward to that. And thanks again for everybody that came out and supported Rock Vegas. We got some other cool stuff coming. I've had so many people. I went to dinner last night and I had some guys came up and talked about Rock Vegas. They were unable to attend, but they were so appreciative that we had this great music event here in Starkville, and encouraged me to do more of them because they want Starkville to become more of a music town. And so there are a lot of people around hiring live music, and we absolutely support that. But we want to bring some pretty cool acts to Starkville and do some cool things here. I want you guys to come, especially like if we can do a big show like the Friday of a ball game weekend, you're looking for something to do Friday night. If we can give you a killer show, and you get up and have a great game on Saturday, it makes for a pretty special weekend. And so we want to do that and, of course, raise some more money for the initiative. But not every show will be for the Bulldog Initiative. Some of these will be able to help venues and rock bands and things like that. So there will be some for-profit stuff, too. So I won't be out here begging you guys to buy tickets to donate or anything. But when we do shows for the initiative, we're raising money for the initiative. All right, that's it for today. Be back with you guys on Wednesday. Look forward to that. A little bit later, I'll be with Mike Leach. We'll be doing the pre-Kentucky presser. Look forward to that. And then we'll have media opportunities Tuesday and Wednesday with coaches and players. And we'll talk about that on Wednesday's show. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.